followers. This is your old pal, Brother Jack Angry, bringing you another episode of Movie Night live from the Monastery of Mayhem, along with the Angry Brothers Omaha Rama. I'm Brother Jack Angry, and my co-host, Brother Reggie. We decided to bring him up from the crypts here to kind of help me host the show, as you know, Brother James, Inferna, Lady Torrid, everyone, Ash, Sin, and everyone else, Gulia, they've all kind of bailed on me, and it's like, I understand, you know, people have got other things to do, but geez, give me a little warning once in a while, you know, but anyway, tonight's episode is going to be a little different here, faithful followers. We're going to review a very special movie. It's not public domain, but you know what, I really don't care at this point, because I wanted to bring this to you to honor a really great man. Now, as you know, about a week prior, we lost, we lost a very good friend of the horror genre, of the sci-fi genre, the grandfather of geekdom, as he was so lovingly called, and who would call his many legions of fans and followers on Twitter, Facebook, and what have you. He would refer to them as his grandchildren, or his spiritual grandchildren. I'm talking about, of course, Leonard Nimoy, who passed away last week after a long extended illness of COPD, brought on by the fact that, he was a lifelong smoker for over 30 years, and even though he had quit in the last several years, unfortunately the damage had been done, and, but Leonard Nimoy did serve as a model for those of us who are trying to quit, or who have quit and want to stay off of them, myself included. I mean, I've been quit for like 5 years now, actually over 5 years, and occasionally I will smoke a pipe every now and again. And our good friends at Mayhem Vapors have given me more than enough products and things like that to help keep me off tobacco. And speaking as someone who lost their own mother to, at that time COPD was called emphysema, but it's the same horrible disease. Sorry about that, Brother Iggy. Oh well, it looks like we just lost Brother Iggy. Well, we'll put him down here where he can stay out of trouble. All right, as I was saying, as someone who lost their mother to COPD, only at that time it was called emphysema, but it was the same horrible disease and the same outcome, and so we wanted to we want to lovingly dedicate tonight's show to Leonard Nimoy, who is the focus of tonight's show. Throughout the show you'll be seeing some clips from other horror hosts honoring Leonard Nimoy and for his portrayal of the character of Spock from Star Trek. He was in quite a few different movies. I mean, he was actually in a movie called Francis Goes to West Point that was very popular in the early 1950s. It was one of the Francis series starring Francis the Talking Mule. He played a young West Point cadet who was on the football team. I think he had like maybe 2 lines to the whole film, but you kind of have to watch it, but if you do, you will recognize him. And he was also in a 1950s serial called Radar Men from the Moon. He played a Martian soldier who was beaten up and killed by the hero of the story, but again, if you look really closely, you will be able to recognize him even under the costume and makeup. Leonard Nimoy did quite a few bit parts, or not that I really say bit parts. He was a very strong supporting actor through many of his career features. He played the psychiatrist in the original Invasion of the Body, or in the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, with Donald Sutherland and I believe Karen Allen. He was in a movie called Catlaw with Richard Crenna. He played a bounty hunter / villain. He was in an episode of T.J. Hooker that was quite popular. I had a chance to watch that recently. I mean, the man has a long and distinguished career that stretched back decades. So I mean, I'll have to research some more of his films and see if we can find anything else worthy to bring you. And speaking of worthy films, we're going to be bringing you tonight the 1973 made-for-TV movie called Baffled. Now, this movie was actually a pilot for a TV series that Leonard Nimoy was being considered for, but it never really materialized. I know that at that time, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Nimoy was actually concentrating more on theater and stage productions and not so much on acting or films. So when this pilot was going to basically put him back on TV after his hiatus, or after his tenure on Star Trek, this was going to put him back in the public eye as far as TV was concerned, but it never really materialized. And unfortunately, which is kind of sad, because this is not a bad film, people. I actually had the opportunity. I'd watched it once when I was a younger lad, many moons ago, when I was living back east in the Washington, D.C. area. Was on run. I remember it was run on Channel 5, and it was run on the Saturday afternoon matinee. They would run action films, romances, the occasional monster movie, but not many. But they ran adventure films and things like that, and some sporting events. And I had managed to catch it and was, quite mesmerized by it. I remember sitting there watching the whole thing. To give you a little the plot of the film, Leonard Nimoy plays race car driver Tom Kovac, who, while in the middle of a race, begins having visions about something unsettling going on in an English country manner. I mean, he's driving along his little race car, speeding along down the track. All of a sudden, the vision will pop up in front of him of an English country house, and he's roaring down the driveway. Well, naturally, this might be a little disconcerting if you're trying to run in a race at that time. So these visions continue to plague him for several days, until he finally tracks down the location of the house and goes to pay a visit to it. He meets several people who are being attacked psychically by a member of some type of Celtic wolf cult. Hold on, rented lips. Sent my lips out to be cleaned and haven't been able to do a thing with them since. But anyway, a Celtic wolf cult. There we go. I believe it was called Narcosis the Wolf, or Marcosis the Wolf. And Tom Kovac, played by Leonard Nimoy, runs afoul of these practitioners of the dark arts who proceed to attack him psychically in various ways. But I won't give away the whole movie right now. Suffice it to say that it's actually a very good movie, believe it or not. And before anybody writes me, I know it's not in public domain. I'm hoping that the estate and family of Leonard Nimoy will grant us this small concession and allow us to run it, as we haven't had any time to contact them, and we did want to get this tribute show out in a reasonably timely manner. To do Leonard Nimoy the proper honor, and and all that, because as we grew up with Spock and Leonard Nimoy. I can remember every night, 5 o'clock, Channel 5 on WWT TV, Channel 5, out of Oxon Hill, Maryland, where I grew up. And it was, you had two choices. At 4:30, you had Doctor Who, which was the original Doctor Who, starring like Patrick Troughton, Tom Baker, John Pertwee, and all that. And then at 5 o'clock, you had Star Trek. And even though you'd seen the episodes 100 times before, and you could quote dialogue from each one, you still had to be in your chair every day at 5 o'clock to watch Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Bones, Scotty, Uhura, Chekhov, and Sulu. And even back then, Sulu was fabulous. If you get my meaning, but that's okay. We love George Takei anyway. And you had to be in your seat, at that time, just to catch what was going on the show here. It was always, you know, just a thrill just to see Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Spock, even though you'd seen it all 100 times. You never lost that magic. So, without any further ado, friends, we're going to bring you Baffled. And again, this episode is very, very, very lovingly dedicated to Leonard Nimoy, who who left us far too soon. But he did leave behind a very, very rich legacy. I mean, if you could equate the love of your fans, your friends, the respect of your peers, and what have you, to money, gold, jewels, you know, he would have been a man that was rich beyond measure, just for the fact as how well loved and how well regarded he was. You know, so now, without further ado, we're going to bring you Baffled, starring Leonard Nimoy, here on the Angry Brothers Omaha Shocker Rama. Enjoy.
It may come as an unpleasant shock to you, Michelle, but I'm not scared of black cats, Friday the 13th, or walking under ladders. Look out!
I earn my living selling rare books, in the course of which I've gained a great deal of knowledge on witchcraft and the occult.
You know, I know this great Armenian restaurant on East 54th Street.
Concentrate, please.
Great-looking chick. So maybe sometime we'll see each other.
Look out!
But my pouch...
Look out!
I'm even beginning to wonder about the rare books.
To arrive at my own diagnosis, thank you.
In case you didn't know, they often serve poison in wines in medieval Italy.
He's not a bad guy, so it's not the butler.
It hasn't been for years. Something evil.
Michelle, this is a little...
Afraid we're having roast beef tonight.
Oh, yeah. I'm an amateur palomologist.
Now, like it or not, you have rare and mysterious insight.
Honey, listen. What you call insight, I call a knock in the head that I got when I wrecked my car at 160 miles an hour.
Faithful followers, welcome back. What do you think of Baffled so far? Yeah, I know, I agree. It's not that bad a movie. I mean, the plot was fairly well conceived. You know, I like the psychic attack angle and the Celtic wolf cult, and you know, the younger girl being possessed by either a spirit of a demon or some type of psychic entity, as it were. I mean, not a bad little bit of made-for-TV psychic drama there. I mean, definitely worth the time it's taken to watch it so far. I mean, it's one of those classics that you can come back into again and again and again. I mean, look at Brother Reggie. He's still watching it and he's absolutely mesmerized. See? Nothing. You know? Right? Right, Brother Iggy? Yes. But anyway, to give you a little bit more of the trivia about the film, you'll notice the scene where the Tom Kovac is in the race and he has his first vision. You'll see the spelling of his name on his helmet. It was spelled KCVK, which it looks that was either somebody in the prop department really couldn't spell, or they went to public school. But we don't really know. We don't really know, but it was a big spelling error. But now, if you'll notice, when the scene where they do the pit stops, you'll see his helmet rather prominently figured in the shot, and the spelling is correct. It's been corrected. It magically corrected itself. I mean, what do you think about that? Just the continuity department. Hey, those guys are really on the ball. But, that's little things like that. And we couldn't find too much trivia as far as any goofs or anything. So if anybody knows of anything, they're not telling it. I did notice that there were some scenes, that were, looked out of place. And, I did come to find that some of the sequences had been shot out of order because of production issues and people being sick, and then they were later edited into the final print of the film before it went off they were put back in post-production. Oh, sorry, just lost my train of thought there. I do apologize. They were put back in post-production, slightly out of sequence, although not enough to warrant a recall of the film or a total re-editing or reprinting. So that was never necessary. But I mean, the film did play to it was made for TV. It was a made-for-TV movie that did have some small airplay in theaters. It did have a very limited theatrical run, about 1973, but it never was run nationally. It was mostly just run in the Hollywood area and the California area, where it actually had surprisingly good numbers. But again, the TV pilot, it was done as a pilot, and it never really caught on. So again, Leonard Nimoy was unfortunately not going to be able to use that as a venue to be able to return to the small screen. But he would get his chance later on, about 5 years later, actually about 3 or 4 years later, about 1975, 76, when he was brought back as the host of the well-loved and long-running TV series In Search Of. And, they would have various psychic mysteries, various mysteries, UFOs, aliens, that sort of thing, the Loch Ness Monster, the Screaming Skull, any number of subjects, and that was a staple of like Friday nights at our houses. It's after, and it came on about 8 o'clock in the evening. So we usually came in about 7 o'clock. In the summer it was longer, but in the wintertime we were in by 7 o'clock for the evening, and you had your dinner, and the parental units told you to go wash up, put your pajamas on, and if you didn't give them too much trouble, or you weren't being too big a pain in the ass, they'd let you sit up and watch In Search Of, or they'd let you watch it on the big color TV out in the living room, which for us, me and brother James, that was a big treat. And we get to see Leonard Nimoy talking about all these really great subjects, ancient aliens, the Nazca Plains, and Loch Ness Monster, and all of these other things, the Crystal Skull, and all these, the mysteries of Jack the Ripper, and all these things. And I believe you can buy the whole series in a box set. I'm going to have to check that out, and I might actually have to put in an order for that one. That brings me back. That's some great television right there. But, I have thousands of memories of Leonard Nimoy. I can recall seeing him on, he did a bit on the Flip Wilson TV show. And I remember that he played a man who had an injury, or He had an injury to his throat, and he was talking with Flip Wilson in his doctor's office. Basically, Flip Wilson was playing a man who'd severely kind of injured his back and couldn't really bend down. So the two of them got to talking and discovered they had a mutual love of the game of golf. So Flip Wilson turns to Leonard Nimoy and says, "I'll tell you what, I'll yell 4 for you if you tee off for me." And I thought that was just a great comedic bit, you know, and it was just funny. It was one of those funny things that you might not remember for years and years and years, and then something happens, and you know, regrettably, it had to be Leonard Nimoy's passing. You know, and it brings these memories. Oh, excuse me, there, I had to scratch an itch. Brings those memories back to you, and you know, you've got a ton of them. I'm sure we've all got a ton of them rattling around in our heads somewhere. And you know, I'm not ashamed to admit it. When I heard about it, I was quite distraught, and I'm sure many of you out there were as well. A good friend of the show, a gal named Kim Lockman, did some wonderful artwork, and if you'll go to our Facebook page, you will see that listed as our cover photo on there. Great job, Kim. You know, just amazing, the outpouring of sympathy that came not only from fellow celebrities, but from, you know, Leonard Nimoy's fans, his, you know, spiritual grandchildren, as it were, because one of the titles that Leonard Nimoy enjoyed was being called the grandfather of geekdom. I mean, definitely the man was loved and respected in the geek, you know, and I don't say that to be derogatory. I say it because, you know, I'm a geek, we're all geeks. If you're watching this show, there's a good chance you're a geek in some way. You're a nerd, you're a geek. I mean, Mr. Spock was the icon for nerds. He was the prototype for all of us. I mean, we all wanted to be Mr. Spock, you know, to be the cool, emotionless, you know, totally logical Mr. Spock, and, you know, have all the answers, and, you know, if you didn't have them, you did a Vulcan mind meld and you got them that way, you know, which I always thought that was really great. But, you know, and it's still kind of a, you know, it's like we're all, I'm sure we're all still in shock, you know, at his passing, just for the fact that it was rather sudden. I mean, what was it? Wednesday he was admitted to the hospital with chest pains, and he was gone by Friday. You know, too much too soon, much too soon. But, you know, again, we're going to get back to the movie Baffled from 1973 here on the Angry Brothers Omaha Rama. Enjoy.
Greetings, faithful followers. What did you think of Baffled so far? I thought it was actually a pretty good movie. I mean, it was a TV pilot that they kind of made into a small theatrical feature, and you know, while it didn't run nationally, it did get a very nice reception in the California and West Coast theaters that it was run in. You know, so not a bad movie. Leonard Nimoy did a great job as Tom Kovac. I liked the little bit at the end, you know, when she asked him his middle name, and he looked at her with an almost Spock-like stoicism and says, Chester, you know. This thing, you know, big macho race car driver with a middle name of Chester. Okay, you know, I'm sure if wherever, you know, Leonard Nimoy is, I'm sure he's looking down and hopefully getting a chuckle out of that, you know. I just, you know, hope he understands the degree that he touched all of our lives, whether, you know, some of us want to admit it or not. You know, I think in some way he's influenced me. I'm sure he's influenced many of you out there through his characters, through his art, through his photography. He was an accomplished artist and poet, not to mention a very accomplished photographer. Just search any of his photography work, and there's a ton of examples out there. Just a total Renaissance man. I mean, you know, and I'm reminded of the line at the end of Wrath of Khan, where Kirk says, "Of all the souls I've encountered in my travels, his was the most human." I want to amend that just ever so slightly. I would want to say, instead of human, I would want to say his was the most humane. Man was, you know, from what I understood, he was always trying to be involved in ways to help his fellow man and better conditions. You know, I know he worked tirelessly for a number of charities, and you know, being and I just found this out recently. I did not know he was an Orthodox Jew, and he was a practicing Orthodox Jew. So you know, you learn something. But you know, normally I would end the show. With our customary phrase, "Keep America on top," and let's keep America on top. Watch Horhosh, y'all. But tonight, we're gonna just kind of dispense with that tonight. The next segment you're going to see is you are going to see clips from several well-known horror hosts, some all good friends of mine who were kind enough to take a moment out of their busy schedules and leave these little messages of tribute to Leonard Nimoy. And you'll see the one at the end from our good friend Oliver, host of the Oliver's Totally Twisted Midnight Movie Stoner Friendly Freak Show. I hope I got that right. It's like, Jesus, Oliver, why do you make that so long? If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then parody and satire has got to be a close second. And I think they do walk hand in hand with each other. Oliver is going to bring us his little take on Spock and Doctor Who and how they fit into his little universe, and we hope you enjoy that. But to end the show tonight, before we get to the clips from the horror hosts, I'm just gonna say, you know, Leonard Nimoy, we salute you, and wherever you are, I hope that. Wherever you are, I hope this finds you well and happy. And I hope you know and understand how much you all mean to us, and how much you touched all of us. So before I lose it completely here, I'm just going to say good night, and as Leonard Nimoy ended many of his tweets on Twitter, live long and prosper, everyone. Thank you.
Hello there, Brother Jack, friends of the show. This is your Uncle Edward coming to you from the basement tonight on this rather somber occasion. Yet, all of us in the horror host genre, the sci-fi horror genre, were affected by a man who we know as Leonard Nimoy. At this time, I'm here tonight to pay respect to Mr. Nimoy, better known as Mr. Spock. Again, he influenced a lot of us here in this genre. However, I don't actually think any of his films are in the public domain presently, but nonetheless, he has always been a major influence on us here, and shall always be. His works in the movies, the Star Trek series, and many, many television shows, the least of which is, of course, Star Trek. We will always remember Leonard Nimoy, and he will always be a big part of our hearts. So, at this time, goodbye, Spock. We'll miss you. And, as always, rather, live long and prosper, my friends. Live long and prosper. This is Uncle Edward. Good night.
Good evening, my friends, my fiends, my fellow collectors and monster and sci-fi fans. I am Bobby G. Monster, internet horror host of Monster Movie Night, and I'm here to do a little memorial, a giant memorial to a giant man, a figure for us all that I'm sure that a lot of you, like myself, grew up with, watching on Star Trek, as well as many other wonderful films, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, a remake, and so many, many other things. That's right, our very own Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy, died in March, and at the end, very close to the end of not March, February. The very end of February. This is March now. Sorry. It kind of gets a little choked up thinking about it. And this is one of our old posters here in the museum. As you can see, there's Captain Kirk, and there's Mr. Spock. And of course, he's doing the Vulcan salute. And we'd like to thank him for his dedication, for his service, and for his entertainment that he brought to us one and all. We will miss you, but we'll never forget you. May you have lived long and prosper, Mr. Spock, Mr. Nimoy. And may you go into a different area of your life and go even further and prosper even further. And cut. Okay, clip number 2. And go. My name's Bobby G. Monster, internet horror host of Monster Movie Night, and a wonderful icon has passed away. We've lost yet another, Mr. Leonard Nimoy, aka Mr. Spock from Star Trek, the series, the movies, the one, the only to me. A wonderful man, a wonderful entertainer. He could sing, play music, compose. He did soliloquies. Also, you name it, he probably could do it. I mean, Shakespeare, Sherlock Holmes, the works. And I loved reading about the man's life. I loved watching the movies and the shows about him and with him on them. And we are going to miss him, but we'll never forget him. In fact, there he is here doing the Vulcan salute to you all. And I know everyone's told the story, everybody's heard the story, but you know, I'll do it short and simple and sweet from what I've heard from the man himself say. He was the one that suggested to Mr. Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, to put in this particular Vulcan hand salute, a sort of a secret symbol or signal to each other, saluting each other as Vulcans of the planet. Now the story is that when he was a young man, young fellow, in the synagogue, Orthodox synagogue. There was a point in the ceremonies where the rabbis would tell everyone to close their eyes, put their head down, and then he would go into some of the Aramaic or Hebrewic wordings of a prayer of what this does. Well, anyway, they weren't supposed to look. That's the question. Well, Mr. Nimoy, I can almost see the mischievousness in his eyes now. He peeked, and he said what he saw was the rabbis were doing their chants and their prayers, and they were doing hand symbols, gestures on both hands. And of course, he thought it was so wonderful, so unique, so interesting. He remembered it, so he started practicing how to do it so that he could do it with both hands or one hand or what have you. So he suggested, it's a lot more to the story, but you'll find it somewhere online, I'm sure. But anyway, when it was come time to do Star Trek later down in the years, he remembered this. And so he suggested to Mr. Roddenberry, why don't we do this for the secret Vulcan sign, handshake type thing. And he told him the story, and they said, okay, and it's been history, and there we are, live long and prosper. And even afterwards, live long and prosper in the afterlife, Mr. Nimoy, Mr. Spock. We love you, we miss you, but we will never forget you. Cut.
Hello, my little ghouls. Miss Misery here. I just wanted to say thank you to a wonderful man, Leonard Nimoy. Wonderful man, an icon, and a legend. Thank you for sharing your talent with the world. Live long and prosper.
Okay, now, how again is this the cross between Doctor Who and Star Trek?
Well, it's like Doctor Who had sex with Star Trek, and this was their baby.
I don't get it.
Picture this. This here Tom Baker action figure, that's Doctor Who. And this here Leonard Nimoy Spock figure, that's Star Trek. Now close your mind.
Okay.
And imagine.
Spock to Enterprise. While investigating the effects of recent Magellanic storm activities on the indigenous plant life of Metabulus 3, I've detected the signature of a curious temporal anomaly, and I've tracked that to my current location.
Well, what have we got here?
I'm First Officer Spock of the Starship Enterprise. And you are?
I'm the Doctor. The miracle cure for whatever ails you. Vulcan, right? I'm a sucker for pointy ears. Come, give me a kiss.
Excuse me?
How'd you like to hop on the good old Doctor and take a magical ride?
Please, stop.
This is illogical. Don't worry, Pointy. I'm a lot bigger on the inside than I am on the outside.
Hey!
Ooh, you're tighter than a Vulcan death grip. Can I fill you with my jelly, baby?
Let's sperminate!
Ah, that was amazing. Care for another go?
I don't understand.
Whenever we Time Lords are used up, we generate into brand new bodies, ready to go, go, go. Now come here, you little tribble.
And that's how the Solaronauts was made. Well, Ed might not figure it out, but you guys at home, sit back and enjoy these commercials.